Let's talk about 4 simple ways that you can read more books. There's no shortage of recommended reading lists out there, and you likely have several books sitting on your shelf waiting to be read. Unfortunately, it can be a struggle to find the time to sit down with a good book. So how can we manage to get more reading done? Well, thankfully, the solution is not to try to increase your reading speed. And I have 4 simple methods that will help you read more books and finish them faster. So here are some simple ways that you can get more reading done. First, make a plan. Whenever you want to improve on an area of your life, it's wise to have a plan and a means of tracking your progress. If you wanted to lose weight, you'd set a specific goal of how many pounds you'd like to lose, and you'd create an exercise plan, and you'd weigh yourselves, and you'd track how you were doing. Well, similar to that, if you want to read more books, you should set a specific goal. Create a list of books that you want to read and keep track of your progress throughout the year as you check them off your list. A good goal would be to read 12 books a year. Now that might sound overly ambitious to some who have fallen out of the habit of reading, but you could polish off a 250-page book each month by reading about 8 pages a day, and most people can read that amount in about 20 or 30 minutes or less. I use a simple spreadsheet to keep a list of books. That list is constantly growing, but I'm keeping track of what I want to read and what category they're in. And so I've broken it down into different genres, and I bold titles that I already have on my shelf, and I mark them off. You can highlight them once you get them accomplished, maybe put the date in there of when you've finished that book. I also like to keep a little note section there, and whether or not I think it's worthwhile to recommend to others, what I got most out of it, whether I'd want to read it again. And so you can keep track of your progress and keep a list of your books. Another benefit of having in a list is that when you finish a book, you kind of already know what it is that you want to read next. So I recommend spreading your reading out over multiple genres, so be careful about ignoring a particular type of book altogether. If you're more interested in fiction, well, pick up a biography. If you exclusively read nonfiction, grab yourself a copy of the Chronicles of Narnia or The Hobbit or some other work of fiction that has withstood the test of time. You want to track your progress. Use that same spreadsheet to keep track of what you've read for the year, as well as the total pages. You could either highlight completed titles in your list, or you could keep another sheet altogether with just the name of the book, the number of the pages, and the date that you read it. Keeping a list and tracking your progress is going to help encourage you to keep on moving. You'll look back at the end of the year and see that you read more than you thought you could. And you'll also have a better idea of what it is that you would like to read in keeping with your goals. I'll include a link in the description to a sample spreadsheet that you can use to not only set reading goals, but also to track your progress as you go along. A second tip is to schedule a time to read. As I mentioned earlier, you can read a 250-page book every month. If you read just 8 pages a day, it's going to take you between 15 and 30 minutes, depending on how fast you read. And if you want to make reading more books your goal, well, you'll need to commit the time to accomplish that goal, just like anything else. So what time will you intentionally set aside to read? Perhaps early morning before anyone wakes up, or in the evening instead of watching TV. No matter what time you pick, you'll be far more likely to make this happen if you schedule reading into your day. Third, reject junk food reading. If your goal for the year was to exercise more and eat healthier, well, it'd be unwise to be sneaking junk food throughout the day. Not only does it fill you up so you're not hungry for the food your body actually needs, in most cases, you're actually consuming things that are detrimental to your health. In the same way, if your goal is to read more books, it would be unwise to waste multiple 15-minute chunks of time throughout the day scanning through Twitter, checking Facebook, or scrolling through Instagram. If you spend your downtime consuming the digital junk food of social media and checking for breaking news or browsing other media, you'll be wasting time that you could spend on getting a few pages read in your book. Otherwise, you're filling up on content, so you won't be in the mood to read later, and the stuff that you did read was much less beneficial. So instead of grabbing your smartphone at the first sign of boredom, keep a book with you. You can read it when you're in a waiting room, having a flight delay, or stuck in traffic, or anytime you have a few minutes to spare. Fourth, embrace audiobooks. Now, this might sound like cheating, but I really do encourage you to make use of audiobooks. I've learned to embrace audiobooks, and for the most part, I consider myself having read a book if you've listened to it intently in its entirety. I love listening to audiobooks, and it is a great way to cover more ground that you otherwise simply could not. There's far more books that you'd like to read than you possibly have time for, and an audiobook can really help you cover some content that you otherwise might miss out on, and you can listen as you mow the lawn or go on a road trip or something else. Now, I've found for me this works best for works of fiction, but also biographies and lighter theological works are easy to listen to as well. Any book that you might want to highlight in or you need to reread passages don't always work as well for audiobook listening. At least that's what I've found. Each year I probably listen to a dozen good books that I simply would not have had time to read otherwise. So if you have a commute, if you work out regularly, or you can have headphones in while you work or do household chores, you can cover a lot of ground during the week. Now, I personally recommend using Everand for audiobooks. You don't have to mess with credits and purchasing audiobooks like you do over on Audible. It's just a flat rate each month. It's like Netflix, but for audiobooks. Other options for audiobooks is check out your local library. They probably have a ton of audiobooks that you could check out. And there's other sites like LibriVox, which has thousands of free public domain audiobooks. Now, that consists solely of works that are in the public domain. You're not going to find newer books, and it's free because they crowdsource the reading. So it can be a mixed bag in terms of the quality of the narrator, but that's a really good option as well, and I listen to that frequently in addition to Everand. So there you have it. If you want to read more books, you don't need to pick up speed reading or start reading shorter books. You just need to make a plan, schedule the time, get rid of distractions, and, when you can, start utilizing audiobooks. So take these simple steps and you'll be going through your book list in no time. If you're looking for recommendations on what to read next, I have a resource called the 5-Foot Bookshelf. 57 must-own books that all Christians should have on their shelf. And what I've done is I've assembled this list of books through a broad range of category, including Bible study resources, theology books, apologetics, Christian living, church history, personal devotion, and Christian literature. And if you were to purchase all these books, they would all fit on a single 5-foot shelf. So check that out at reasonabletheology.org/bookshelf. Well, there it is, my 4 tips on how to read more books. I hope you find that helpful.